The United Nations just dropped a bombshell. Israel is breaking international law. Not with rockets,
Not with tanks.
but with evacuation orders, pushing thousands of Palestinians from their homes in Gaza with nowhere safe to go. Since March 18th, Israel has issued 10 mandatory evacuation orders, telling civilians to flee both the north and south. The problem? There's no food, no water,
No shelter.
just sand, tents, and misery. Now the UN is calling it what it is: forced displacement without protection. And it could carry massive legal and geopolitical consequences.
Let's unpack what's happening. Israel resumed full-scale airstrikes and operations in Gaza, claiming renewed militant activity and intelligence threats.
But alongside the bombs, Israel is issuing evacuation orders telling civilians, leave your neighborhoods. Move to designated areas like Al-Mawasi.
This is for your safety. The issue?
Al-Mawasi isn't safe. It's an overcrowded wasteland with no functioning infrastructure. And when people refuse to move, they risk being bombed anyway. The UN says this violates the basic principle of
Distinction between combatants and civilians. UN spokesperson Tamim Al-Khitan stated bluntly.
Israel is not taking any measures to provide accommodation, hygiene, health, safety, and nutrition. That's a direct accusation of violating Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention.
Basic principles of humanitarian law.
The key issue? You can't force civilians to evacuate unless you provide safe, humane alternatives.
Right now, Israel isn't.
Eyewitnesses and aid groups report makeshift tents in the desert, children dying of dehydration, open sewage, and no medical care, families being displaced multiple times in 1 week.
Some residents report being told to move from south to north, then back again.
It's not relocation. It's displacement chaos. And all while airstrikes continue across central Gaza. Since airstrikes resumed, at least 855 Palestinians have been killed. 869 injured, many critically. Civilian infrastructure, including clinics, food convoys, and water pipes, has been damaged or destroyed. This isn't precision warfare.
This is a massive humanitarian collapse. Under the Fourth Geneva Convention, Article 49 explicitly prohibits
individual or mass forcible transfers, as well as deportations of protected persons. The only exception? Temporary evacuations for military necessity, and only if civilians are adequately protected.
they're returned as soon as possible.
They are not forced into inhumane conditions. Right now, Israel is ordering evacuations without
Food, shelter, clean water, medical services,
or return guarantees. That's why the UN is stepping in and using the strongest language yet. Israel argues
they are giving advance warnings. The evacuation zones are designated humanitarian areas.
Hamas is embedding within civilian zones, forcing military response. They also point to leaflets, text messages, and phone calls issued before strikes. But legal experts argue warnings are not enough if there's nowhere safe to go. Evacuating someone into danger or deprivation still constitutes a violation. The Israeli military designated Al-Mawasi, a narrow coastal strip, as a safe zone. But aid groups say it has no infrastructure.
No sewage system. No hospitals. No permanent shelter. No supply routes that aren't bombed.
It's a holding pen for displaced civilians, not a protected area. And with over 1 million Gazans already displaced, the system is cracking.
This isn't just a legal issue.
It's a diplomatic flashpoint.
If Israel is found in violation of international law, it increases global pressure on allies like the US and EU. It could fuel war crimes investigations at the ICC. It gives momentum to UN resolutions and sanctions efforts.
And it forces other Middle Eastern countries to reconsider normalization talks.
This isn't about public opinion. It's about sovereign liability and strategic isolation.
Historically, violations like this are condemned in speeches, debated in committees,
Rarely prosecuted.
but that's changing. With global attention focused and legal NGOs documenting every move, there's rising pressure for sanctions, international court action, arms sale freezes, and political blowback in pro-Israel governments like the US, UK, and Germany.
The optics are shifting, especially with children and civilians caught in the crossfire.
Israel says it's evacuating civilians for safety. The UN says it's displacement without protection, and that's a war crime. And what we're watching isn't just a military campaign.
It's a legal and moral battle over the future of humanitarian norms.
Because if mass forced evacuations without shelter become standard operating procedure, then the rules of war are meaningless. And Gaza may be just the beginning. Should the UN take stronger action?
Is Israel violating international law, or is this just the cost of modern warfare?
Drop your thoughts in the comments.